Hello and welcome back to Simple Psychology. I decided to make a second video on the topic of anxiety and guilt, particularly dedicated to parents. If any parents have had the pleasure of watching that video, they have probably asked themselves some questions and perhaps wondered what they should concretely do and not do to prevent their child from developing anxiety and guilt in the future. Well, let's start from where we left off. We said that it is very important that the child never have the fear, that his instincts and his natural drive to explore, to know, to seek pleasure, and to avoid displeasure will undermine the security of parental love. The child's natural tendencies to do these things simply need to be addressed, constructively directed. But they must never be repressed. It will be his curiosity, his desire to explore, to find new forms of pleasure that will enable him, when he is an adult, to lead a full and happy life. So we need to preserve these components. Certainly we need to help the child direct them well, but we should never prevent him from implementing them. And even more so, we should never make him fear losing parental affection, because he follows these natural tendencies. If these behaviors of his generate strong negative reactions in the parent, he will, out of fear of losing your affection, begin to suppress them. He will feel anxious when he hears them emerge, and feel guilty if he finds the courage to fulfill them. If, for example, a child. He will try to pick up a precious object in the house and drop it, and it will break. Is it possible for the parent to have a photo and reaction of anger or sadness? The urge to inquire and discover is fundamental in a human being, but as a result of the parent's reaction, he or she may begin to perceive it as something wrong or dangerous. If a child's behavior instead will cause the parent to be disappointed, hurt, or ashamed, he will learn to feel bad and wrong. And maybe he will associate negative feelings with just that kind of experience. Let's take an emblematic example. Many times parents, especially mothers, get very nervous, feel very bad, very inadequate when they cannot get their baby to eat. It is normal for the child to accept food he likes and reject food he does not like. Despite this, such behavior by the child may be experienced by the mother as a strong frustration and a sense of rejection. It has always struck me very much that mothers use this expression. They say, "My son won't eat me." Actually, that he eats me betrays the fact that the mother feels the rejection of the food as a rejection of the mother herself, and therefore experiences it particularly badly. The mother, therefore, in this situation may feel inadequate as a mother. She may feel wrong or otherwise may feel rejected. In many cases, unfortunately, she will forcibly try to get the child to eat, and mealtime will become something very unpleasant, both for the child and the mother. Understand that this child will associate the perception of food with something particularly heavy and pleasant and conflicting. Today we have many children who have eating problems, and certainly part of these situations can be precisely related to bad experiences in the relationship with food made in the first months of life. In general, the adult should never destabilize by expressing strong emotional reactions in front of the child's instinctive behaviors. If the child does something inappropriate, perhaps in public, and the parent becomes agitated, worried, or ashamed, again the child, reading in the parent's gaze that emotion, he will feel inadequate and wrong. The child is also unable to understand whether the parent's emotional reactions are caused by his or her own behavior or by situations that are completely unrelated to the parent-child relationship. Unfortunately, however, the parent will be able to dump on the child a whole range of emotions that he or she has accumulated during the day, simply due to the fact that the child will reactivate those emotions, perhaps repressed by his or her behavior. However, the child, not knowing the parent's situation, will think that he is the cause of that kind of reaction. The child clearly is unable to understand that the parent may be sad, angry, anxious about work, interpersonal problems that have nothing to do with him. For example, think of a parent who has spent a very stressful day at work, failed to complete the task and was reprimanded by his boss just for not being able to do it. He will then return home already emotionally charged, with anger, helplessness, disappointment, and failure. And if the child on that very day decides not to eat the food, he will fall down, hurt himself, cry. The parent will be at risk of venting all the emotions accumulated during the day on the child, and this will probably result in very strong emotional reactions. Unfortunately, a child being abused by a nervous, frustrated parent, he will always attribute only to himself responsibility for the parent's emotional reactions, will not think about the day the parent had, and will not think about the parent's possible emotional fragility. He, in fact, needs, in order to feel calm, to think that the parent is always solid and fair, and so he will learn to fear his own behaviors, and, as we said, to feel anxiety and guilt when he perceives or enacts them. Another problem that can occur is that of inconsistency. Sometimes parents enact behaviors or express highly inconsistent emotions in various situations in the child's life. This can manifest itself in two different situations. In a first case, the parent may show different or even opposite reactions when faced with the same behavior of the child. Imagine a child observing the parent's amusement and smugness as he tries to pull the cat's tail. The child at this point thinks this behavior is funny. He sees dad as cheerful, happy, and complicit, and perhaps in a later situation he will try to repeat that very behavior to entertain dad. But if the father in that second situation gets angry with the child, scolds the child, or expresses annoyance, the child will feel strongly confused. Similarly, he will feel confused if in front of a behavior you see dad having a positive reaction and mom having a negative reaction, or vice versa. Another type of inconsistent and confusing behavior occurs when the parent gives behavior directions to the child with some force, but then he acts differently or even in the opposite way. Remember that for the child, imitation of the parent is the best and quickest teaching tool. Leading by example is undoubtedly the most effective strategy for transmitting role models. I remember a situation where a teacher asks a child, "What does your dad do when you and your brother start hitting each other?" And the child replied, "He makes us stop, then he beats us." Understand that this sounds like a funny joke, but it actually hides something very dramatic and very important. Parents are sometimes unable to set a good example and send strongly contradictory messages. Dear parents, I really hope I have managed to give you some useful and applicable information, because these issues are really very important. Surely you know parents who struggle to adequately manage their children's extroverted behaviors, so you will be of great help to me. If you would like to spread this video with all the people you know who are dealing with developmental children. Thank you, goodbye, and see you in the next videos. Bye, and see you soon.